Hi, welcome to Maker's Bar. I'm Akshita Shetty. Today we have Irwin Katsof, president of TradeMissions.org, on Maker's Bar. TradeMissions.org conducts trade missions in partnership with U.S. Department of Commerce International Trade Administration to assist U.S. alternative fund asset fund managers to connect with sources of capital. So I'm really excited to learn what they exactly do and how did Irwin start doing this. So welcome, Irwin.
Hello, hello, welcome. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Nice to see you as well again.
Aksash,
So
Akshatha. It's a
yes,
difficult name.
Akshata. Totally, it is very hard to pronounce, but people will get there. So I joke and I say the first lady of UK, her name is the same as mine. So I was so happy when she became the first lady, and I was like, oh, finally people can actually pronounce my name now.
Okay, wonderful.
Anyways,
Excuse me for
so
having difficulty.
yeah, same here. So let's jump on to the question. So tell
Okay.
me, can you walk me through your professional journey and how did you go about doing what you're doing right now, and how was the career trajectory like as you build this, and what made you do this?
Oh my, do you have a few days?
uh, I want the answer in 15
Okay,
seconds if
I
possible.
got it. I actually have my fourth book coming out, which
Uh-huh,
really kind of it's a memoir on business
uh-huh,
and self-help. It's called Living Dangerously.
uh-huh.
And there I kind of traced my whole path. But I actually worked as a rabbi for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I left that in 2005 and I went and I became a somatic practitioner, a
Mm.
psychotherapist in term working with the body and with trauma. And I just graduated with my master's in psychology a month ago.
Uh-huh,
Um, but I always enjoyed connecting people, helping
uh-huh,
people. That was kind of a big part of my mission.
uh-huh,
And as a rabbi, I was doing a lot of work in Eastern Europe.
uh-huh.
And I started to work with people at the United States embassies around in Georgia and Belarus and
Wow.
Ukraine, a lot of hot spots today in the world.
Uh-huh,
And one thing led to another. And
uh-huh,
um, and I then started doing some trade missions for the US government. And a
uh-huh.
few years later, I was asked to if I would help out doing some of the alternative asset fund managers trade missions. And that slowly developed into now, since 2012, we've done,
Uh-huh.
last week was our 70th trade mission,
Wow, congratulations.
brought
Yeah.
over 750 US fund managers to 15 different countries around the world, helping them raise capital.
Wow. Good for you. I have no idea how you do it, but good for you. So
We have a great team and great partners with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and we have a great team, and we, it's taken a while to figure out how to do it right, like any new venture.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Eventually, with a bit of rise, standing, falling, stumbling,
yeah.
you get it down, you figure it out.
Yeah. And it's great that you've done it for over a period of decade now. So there's a lot of body of work as well right now, and it must be a lot more easier to explain to people. So tell me, obviously, helping out these asset managers. First of all, what is alternative investing, right? I know what it is, but I'm just curious for our viewers what alternative investing is, and why do these asset managers need to go out and raise capital, and how does this kind of work?
Right. So
Yeah.
we focus on a few different verticals. Alternative asset fund managers, they're large pools of capital
Mm-hmm.
managed by someone with a good track record and experience and expertise. We
Mm-hmm.
focus on venture capital, so helping new companies get started because you can't really get a loan from a bank if
Yeah.
you have a new venture and you don't have revenue yet. And then
Right.
we also help private equities. That could be credit funds, debt funds, buyout funds. We
Mm-hmm.
also work with real estate fund managers, and we work with people who are involved in the public equity markets. So that's in liquid stocks, regularly in public markets.
So So you're saying you also so liquid stocks would not be exactly alternative markets as
No,
well.
but
You
we do include that as well.
yeah.
That would not be an alternative, but we include that as well.
Okay. And then why does one need to raise capital externally, like outside of the US, not just in the US, just out of curiosity?
You don't need to. Not everyone needs to,
Hmm.
but it it is a big world.
Yeah.
A lot of, I mean, this year, let's see, and we did trade missions to in February to Zurich and Geneva, in March to London, in
Yeah.
May to Mexico City,
Yeah.
end of May to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, June was Hong Kong, last week was Singapore, coming up is Toronto, Montreal, and
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of financial centers. There's a lot of places, capitals in the world that are generating a lot of revenue, and
Yeah.
people are looking for opportunities. The US still is the biggest economy in the world.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
if you're looking to put your capital to work, it's certainly
Yeah.
the one of the safest and one of
Yeah.
the most productive and one that's showing the most growth. Now,
Yeah.
now not everyone wants to raise capital outside of the US.
Hmm.
Some people are very content with just working. I mean, even on a more a micro level, some people are content just to raise capital in their own city. It might
Yeah.
be Detroit, it
Yeah.
might be LA, Chicago, New York, wherever. And some
Yeah.
people are fine with that.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of fund managers want to have diversity
Hmm.
among their LPs in
Hmm.
different economies in the world, because often when the United States might be in a pullback or a recession, Asia might be expanding,
Yeah.
or Asia might be pulling back and the Middle East is expanding. So
Yeah.
such capital can suddenly get very tight in a local market,
Yeah.
where in a foreign market it's not. So this helps them hedge against those kinds of radical shifts in their own local economy.
Yeah.
And
That
so,
that's an amazing point, and I think you basically gotten a whole lot of things where I have more right where I can dig a little bit deeper. So when so as you said, right, it could be that Asia is doing well and US has local turmoil or whatever, the local Los Angeles turmoil or whatever that is, or San Francisco, for instance, right? So as you're raising capital from these different I mean these different, maybe it's a sovereign wealth funds or whatever, right, in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Commerce. So, what does an asset manager need to look at? Like, what would be his fund size that he can actually say, okay, this is a fund size, and it makes sense for me to go raise capital here using your organization, or what is like a typical fund size that you look for in an asset manager, and how long of a uh, how do I call it, a track record do they need?
right.
Yeah.
So um, we have fund managers, many fund managers come that are emerging fund managers. It's their
Mhm.
first fund,
Yeah.
and they're raising 10 million, 20 million, 30 million.
Yeah.
And at the other end, we've had KKR, Kleiner Perkins, Canyon Partners, J. Paulson and Co., Intellectual Ventures. I mean, we've
Yeah.
had funds come that are managing 10 billion, 20 billion, 50 billion.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone, and every LP is looking a little bit differently.
Hmm.
So there are some LPs that will take a risk on a first-time fund manager. I mean, the
Uh-huh.
statistics are clear that first-time fund managers do overall do actually very effectively and are very successful, because they know if they don't, it's over. There's no second
So,
fund. So
yeah.
they keep their eye on the ball. They somehow they have a little bit more edge and might work a little bit harder if that's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
But statistically, first-time fund managers do well. I
Yeah.
think what really counts is if you're a first-time fund manager,
Hmm.
is that you have a track record that you can talk about from a prior
Hmm.
job, a prior fund, or it could just be as an angel investor selecting stocks.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen first-time fund managers come that have
Yeah.
raised 10, $15 million on a trade mission,
Hmm.
but they were able to show an audited track record of what they did as an angel investor for the past 6, 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people, when you go global,
Yeah.
People, I mean, I think it's the same thing even locally, but even more so globally.
Yeah.
They're betting on the jockey.
Yeah,
So
I hear you. Yeah, totally hear you. And you know something which is more another add-on to that list, I would say an alternative fund manager who's a woman is even a better jockey to bet on. And I'm not being biased here, so
no, I yeah,
anyway.
no complaints from me. We have brought a lot of women-led funds,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
they do well.
yeah, they do well. Exactly. So, so when you say audited financials for an emerging manager, so my question is like, I mean, could your organization help with getting an audited, or they have to do it yourself? You can
We
refer
don't
them.
do that. We don't
We
get we don't
do
get
that. Okay.
no. You have to, but when you come to us, you have to be prepared to go to market.
Okay, got it. And then tell me, obviously, since you started 2011, okay, some of the early venture funds which just starting, which are like big names right now, like Andreessen Horowitz started in 2009, right? And some of them, like they really had very nice capital markets in the United States in the last 10 years, 10 plus years, right? So, how has the industry changed since you started doing this 2012 to 2023? What according to you has been the biggest change in the industry, as not just in alternate investing industry, like in terms of fundraising and capital raising as well?
Well, I think it's grown tremendously,
Hmm.
significantly.
Hmm.
Its number of funds from 2011 or 2012 to 2023 is probably tripled. So
Uh-huh.
there's a lot more competition for
Yeah.
investor dollars. At the same time, the amount of wealth has increased significantly.
Yeah.
Um, there have been some real down cycles,
Yeah.
2007, 2008, just even now
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
So once people um, get burned and valuations drop and liquidity gets squeezed,
Yeah.
uh, it takes a few years till people recover from that and
Yeah.
they withdraw, they pull back from the market
Uh-huh.
until they get ready to reinvest.
Hmm.
Um, So I think that the various cycles we've gone through have
Yeah.
seasoned and weathered a lot of and cautioned a lot of investors.
Yeah.
Um, I think the amount of fund managers has increased, exponentially.
Yeah.
I mean, together with the wealth, so there is a lot more competition.
Yeah.
And, we continue to see new flavors of the year or flavors of the month, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
AI, anything AI, and you can put AI after anything, and it's
Yeah.
going to be people are going to want to meet with you,
Yeah.
and continues to be, since the past 3-4 years has been cybersecurity has been
Yeah.
great, and I think as the real estate market has gone into a bit of trauma right now.
Yeah.
Credit funds are very popular because there's a lot of liquidity
Yeah.
squeezing for real estate fund managers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a matter of seeing trends and being able to, if you can, forecast those trends, get a little bit ahead of the ball,
Hmm.
and also seeing that there is a constant shift in what is in and
Yeah.
what's hot.
Yeah.
And being able to anticipate that if you can makes you a star.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna ask you, is AI the new thing in
It's
your
one of
space?
the new things. I think
Yeah,
blockchain, I mean, crypto is a little bit out of favor now, but people
yeah,
who have the ability to stay in there and wait are going to find a lot of bargains in that market. I
yeah,
think people who are sophisticated and understand there's a difference between a token fund and blockchain technology.
yeah,
Blockchain is being applied across every industry now. That's become a very hot sector.
yeah,
Probably the biggest, most attractive sector today that's getting the most attention is AI,
yeah,
and I'd say close to that is cyber.
yeah. Yeah, cyber. I totally agree. Cyber is one of those spaces which is very hot, and it's hard to even find talent. And so in A, so as an AI, it's hard to find talent as well. People who know what they're doing. So, so it's interesting that you speak about like how the industry has changed, right? And there have been a lot more fund managers and asset managers who have come in, right, because the wealth has grown significantly, as you said, right? So, and you, as you said, the kind of alternative funds that are coming up, either in credit space because of some credit squeezing that is happening, and in as well as in AI space as well, right? So, what about like the emerging markets, right? Something like in India or Asia, where like what about funds in those markets? Are there U.S. asset managers who are looking into that as well, or do you see fewer of those?
Yeah. So in trade missions,
Yeah,
because it's an initiative of the United States Department of Commerce,
yeah,
I only work with US based fund
yeah,
manager.
yeah.
Okay.
But you can be a US based fund manager investing still in one of those.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. So
yeah.
we can, but we will, the people who come on our trade missions are US based entities.
Okay.
Now we'll go to countries all over the world to
Yeah,
raise capital.
yeah.
Um, but you have to be a US based entity or fund to
Hmm.
participate in the trade mission.
Yeah. That's a very good point, actually, that you brought up. So, tell me, as you see, as you've built this over the last 12 years, and one of these days I have to get some lessons from you, from in the spiritual sense as well. So, so tell me what your leadership style is, right? Because I think that's kind of very important, and in every way, whether you are a spiritual leader or whether you are doing this, right? You're president of this org. So what is your leadership style as per,
So
you know?
I worked for 25 years as a rabbi.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so my faith
Hmm.
really, I think, inspires how I work with people or how I try and strive to work with people. I don't always make the grade. I sometimes
Yeah,
stumble and fail, but
yeah,
it's important to me to see each person
yeah.
as a unique individual. Every one of us are have the divine within them, and I try to
Yes.
look at people as their soul
Yeah.
and to really see them as a soul who happens to be in a journey in a body. So
Hmm.
that really is what infuses my approach to life. And I try not to make a distinction between how I work,
Uh-huh.
how I am in my personal life. I think
Yeah,
that's where people get in trouble, is
yeah,
that they make a distinction between the two.
yeah.
Uh, and they have work personality and they have a everyday personality. So maybe
Yeah.
at work they feel, oh, I can be cutthroat and I can be driven and I can be nasty. Not so. You have to be who you are and be real and be congruent
Yeah,
and treat people the same wherever you are.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
That that's an amazing, I think, thought process. I think I need to take some lessons from you for here, for sure.
it's an ideal. It doesn't mean I always make it,
Yeah,
and no one's ever going to make it all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's taken me a
So,
long time to get there.
yeah. So, I mean, just to like, I had one of my greatest mentors is actually Jewish. He taught me everything that's there in the business. And in fact, if he was not there, I would not be this smart. That's what I tell people, right? So I joke to him and I always tell him, if I was not Indian, I would be probably be Jewish in my life. So I hear a lot about, the Jewish faith and everything. So I totally hear you when you say, and it's very close to like the old Indian traditions where you are the same within your work as well as in your profession or as well as in your personal life, and you treat people the same way, kind of a thing. So the I see some commonalities over there, and I feel like all faith in general, they all have the same common threads. So anyway, so tell us a book or a mentor, or whoever. I mean, since we spoke about my mentor, whoever has influenced you very deeply in your career and in your life.
One, that's
One, or maybe multiple. I'm happy to hear about the whole list.
um, I mean, my passion is understanding myself, and I think the more I understand myself, the more I can understand others. Right?
Yeah.
If there are areas that I don't know in myself, then I'm really going to have difficulty relating to them and you.
Yeah.
So I enjoy learning about psychology. So
Yeah.
he's a Stanford professor,
Mm-hmm.
professor emeritus. He's probably written around 15 books. His name is similar to mine, but he has a V instead of a W.
Yeah.
Irvin
Yeah.
Yalom, Professor Dr. Irvin Yalom. And
Uh-huh.
he's written many beautiful books
Uh-huh.
about ethics,
Yeah.
about trying to understand what life is all
Yeah.
about how to make your life more meaningful.
Yeah.
He's just finished off one. He's 93 or 94. And
Wow.
and his wife unfortunately died just a couple of years ago. So it was a beautiful book. They each wrote a chapter
Uh-huh.
about how they were dealing with her illness and her
Yeah.
life-ending illness. And
Yeah.
he's coming to grips with what life is all about.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that really speaks to me.
Yeah.
I'm 68. I feel
And
like,
you still have a lot more to go, and you're a lot of zeal,
yeah,
and you're doing
but
this.
I feel like I'm in the last chapter of my life.
So
And
you've
I'm
got to
aware of that.
mentor someone who is smart and intelligent and who can do the same thing.
Right. So I'm aware that it's important to make sure I live the way I want to live now because it who knows when it will end, who knows
Yeah.
if I will get another day. So it's not, I don't know if that's what you were looking for. It's not in a
Yeah.
business sense. I mean, there
Yeah.
are business authors that I have read. I've enjoyed
Yeah.
reading Peter Drucker. I've been who
Yeah.
in terms of his approach to time management. I
Yeah.
think he's a genius, way
Yeah.
ahead of his time. He
Yeah.
was talking
Yeah.
about this 30, 40 years ago before it was in vogue.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed a lot of the kind of novels on sales by Harvey McKay.
Yeah.
He's also a brilliant author.
Yeah.
Beware of the naked man who offers you his shirt. How to Swim with the sharks and survive. I mean, he's just got great, catchy titles, but a lot of really beautiful business wisdom.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, those are some personal growth books and some
Yeah.
business-oriented authors that I've enjoyed.
Yeah, I think Peter Drucker is amazing. I agree with you. Like I've watched him as well, and I've got like just the way he conducts his life as well, right? I just love it.
On
So
sales, I think Zig Ziglar, once again, he's
yeah,
an old timer, but he's a genius.
uh-huh.
One of the things I love that Peter did, which I've done, I haven't done it in a while, but it's such an effective tool, is
Yeah,
he said, mark down, take a piece of paper
yeah,
and make a timeline for the day, 8 a.m., 8:05, 8:10. Mark down every single thing that you do,
yeah,
everything,
yeah,
without editing it. And then at the end of the day, take a look at it.
yeah,
And you'll suddenly see how much off target activity you have and how
yeah,
much wasted time.
yeah,
Um, but it was a very powerful exercise,
yeah,
and just the importance of setting clear goals for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Like one of the highest rates of suicide is New Year's Day, because New
yeah,
Year's Eve, everyone goes out and they make all these New Year's Eve resolutions, right?
yeah.
And the next day they're just depressed. They broke them already. So he said,
I
right, you should really set aside goals and make a plan for how you're going to accomplish those goals during the
yeah,
next.
totally hear you. And I think it's only when you set goals, like even though you don't reach all of them, that you at least see, okay, this is what uh, I could probably achieve some of it. So, so tell me, so give what advice would you give um, if you saw an alternative asset manager who's like emerging and who's coming up in this industry? What advice would you give them as they enter the space? Because it is very daunting to be a first-time fund manager. I've been there, so it's extremely, extremely daunting, and I and it's like you don't know what you're doing. Like I mean, in fact, this is in junction with U.S. Department of Commerce, but there are plenty of those which are not, which are not like your
You,
organization.
I think it's the same with any entrepreneur.
Yeah,
you have to, I think, first make sure you have deep enough pockets and reserves to last 18 to 24 months without income, because it could
Yeah.
take you a long time to raise your fund and get your
Yeah.
management fees.
Yeah.
I think it's important that you anchor yourself within yourself, knowing yourself, and in, if you're fortunate enough to be in a committed relationship, that you
Yeah.
make sure that relationship is strong and strong enough to support you in
Yeah.
going out on your own, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, a lot of
Yeah.
exciting times and a lot of disappointing times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of uh, funds blow up because people go into personal crisis,
Yeah.
and suddenly their marriage is in crisis. I
Yeah.
think it's important to have interpersonal skills, because I've also seen funds blow up because the partners start to fight with each other. So you
Yeah.
have to know yourself, you have to know others, you have to know how to work together, bring in consultants to help you. You have to make
Yeah.
sure your personal life is anchored and stable.
Yeah.
Um, it's really important that you believe deeply in what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't believe deeply in your mission, no one's
Yeah.
they're going to feel it.
Yeah. They're gonna feel it. Yeah.
They might not be able to articulate it, but they're going to sense it.
Yeah.
You have to make sure this is right for you.
Yeah.
And I happen to believe it's important to have a higher purpose. If you can find, if you're, not every fund is has a higher purpose, but I think that as long as it's also producing a good solid return on investment,
Yeah.
having a higher purpose also helps.
I think those are very wise words. And something that you brought about, which is very interesting, is having a stable personal life. And you were very right. And having a stable partner. A lot of funds blow up because the partners didn't have a stable personal life, and a lot of funds blow up because they didn't get along well with their partners, right?
Hmm.
And I think those two are very important points. And I think if you don't have a good personal life, that like I mean whether I mean I'm fund management even more, but any alternative entrepreneurial journey as well, if you don't have a good personal life, it could basically derail everything else, right? So I and it's very expensive to go through a divorce or anything of that sort. So I totally hear you. Yeah, those are very very wise.
And we do have a limited amount of psychic energy.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? If a lot of your energy is being pulled off to deal with fights and
yeah,
arguments and turmoil and unhappiness, you're going to have less to focus on your work.
yeah,
So I think it is a difficult journey to launch
yeah,
a fund.
yeah.
It's not
Also,
for
you don't want to have party boys if possible. You don't want to have party boys if
yeah,
possible. And that will eventually blow off as well.
absolutely. So it's not for the faint of heart. So
Yeah,
I'm looking for someone who's been around the block, who's
yeah,
stable, who's in a stable relationship,
yeah,
who is solid himself or
yeah,
herself,
yeah,
has a community of people that they count on.
yeah.
And I look for someone who's a whole person in a whole package.
Yeah, totally hear you. So, as promised, I finished this in almost 30
Okay. Yeah,
minutes.
I apologize. I need to rush for a plane. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much. I would have had more questions if we had longer time, and we'll do it again when you release a book. I'm really excited to actually read your book.
Okay,
And one
great.
of these days, I will get some spiritual lessons as well from you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Nice
Thank you
to
so
meet you.
much.
Take care.
Nice
Have a
to meet
great
you.
day.
You
Thank
too.
you.